It was an inauspicious start to a much-hyped presidential campaign. Amr Moussa, the former Secretary General of the Arab League, officially began his run for the presidency in the thick air of a sandstorm. Moussa's campaign headquarters is in a villa in a well-to-do neighborhood near downtown Cairo. But he chose a sprawling slum on the outskirts of Cairo called Azbit al-Hagana to launch his campaign. Organizers said that an impoverished neighborhood would serve as a fitting backdrop for Moussa to highlight poverty as a central plank of his platform. But the event attracted as many journalists as residents of Azbit al-Hagana. The journalists were bussed in from Cairo, some 40 minutes away, along with most of Moussa's cheering supporters. The jubilant Amr Moussa supporters marched noisily through the narrow main street of the slum. Bewildered residents looked on. Some went about their daily chores, while others watched from afar. Azbit al-Hagana is in a desolate area surrounded by military installations that line the highway for miles before the town. Many households here have sons serving in Egypt's conscript army.
راجل محترم ويا ريت يا ريت يمسك رئيس جمهورية عشان هو عارف البلد أكتر من أي حد. ده راجل محترم محترم محترم.
عادي هو أحسن من غيره يعني في غيره هو راجل خبرة برضك مهما كان هو أحسن من غيره.
Moussa served as foreign minister under ousted President Hosni Mubarak, but has tried to distance himself from his old boss and recast himself as a supporter of the revolution. You wouldn't know it by the look of his entourage. The dark sunglasses evoked the thuggish aesthetic favored by Mubarak. Moussa has been hailed as a top contender in the upcoming election. However, many Egyptians consider him a felool, or remnant of the former regime, and he has been shouted at by angry citizens at public events. Nevertheless, the campaign launching, in every sense a made-for-media event, seemed to work. As Amr Moussa makes his way to the makeshift stage, a mob of journalists, bodyguards, and campaigners fight to get near him. But the event drew scant numbers. The media and Moussa's private entourage outnumbered local residents at times. According to the United Nations, nearly 40% of Egyptians live underneath the poverty line on $2 a day. Unemployment and poverty have been infecting this country for decades, but have only worsened post-revolution. It's because of this a number of candidates, including Amr Moussa, are campaigning on eradicating poverty and unemployment. While some residents in this neighborhood are convinced he's the man to do it, others say it's the same old rhetoric from the former regime.
دلوقتي عمرو موسى جاي النهارده 4:30 منطقة عشوائية جاي يعني يضحك على الناس ويضحك على يعني بيستخف بعقولهم ان هو جاي النهارده بعد 30 سنة عمر ما حد شافه في منطقة زي دي جاي النهارده يضحك على الناس عشان خاطر الرئاسة. كان فين هو قبل كده؟ وبعدين هو عمرو موسى دوت مش من النظام القديم، مش كان وزير خارجية وبعدين مسك جامعة الدول العربية من النظام القديم.
عمرو موسى كان من الناس اللي قبل كده ما عملش حاجة بقى له 15 سنة أو 20 سنة في السياسة. عمل إيه؟ كان المفروض يتكلم قبل كده بس هو دلوقتي عشان مبارك اتشال هو هيتكلم لما كان يتكلم قبل كده.
A household name, Amr Moussa has been in the public eye for decades. His critiques of Israel have won him support, and he has been considered a favorite to win the election for more than a year. As he tries to exit, Moussa is swarmed by the media, his entourage, and cheering fans. He left behind the slum and the hardships suffered by the people here.
كل حاجة هتبقى مع الصبر أنا صابرين بنتي ملقحة في البيت رحت عشان أديها حقن بالسنتي أصرف 50 جنيه.
4 days after the staged press event in the slum, Moussa courted a more credulous crowd. International journalists, gathered at the campaign's colonial villa to ask questions in English. Smooth talking and fluent in English, Moussa has had no lack of attention from the foreign press, which has routinely mentioned him as a favorite to win the election since Mubarak's ouster. On the Egyptian streets, Moussa's close ties to Mubarak are the most salient and controversial aspect of his candidacy. But here, not a single member of the press corps addressed the issue. Instead, the foreign correspondents tossed Moussa one softball question after the next.
The first step, if you win the election, your first step in policy.
How effective do you think your role can be as a president in bringing the country forward?
But why do you think you are a strong man?
Well,
What
they
mean
think
does it mean?
Why do you want to be president of Egypt?
What do you love about Egypt?
The atmosphere was cordial, as some journalists giggled at Moussa's jokes.
Your translation is your responsibility.
And others fawned over the former Arab League chief.
Do you look so fit after all this trouble in the traffic? And we had the same, and we are not that fit.
I'm sure you know, you probably won't have a very enviable job, will you? If inshallah, you do win.
In my country, in Russia, Amr Moussa is one of the very well-known politicians and very, very respected, maybe the most respected in Egypt and in the Arab world.
Only the Real News questioned Moussa about the strong opposition to his candidacy among the young people at the forefront of last year's Tahrir uprising.
Among those who participated in the Tahrir revolution could be Islamists, Salafis, members of the Muslim Brotherhood Youth, for example, or secular revolutionaries. You have very little credibility. You're almost universally considered a felool. They are almost totally opposed to your presidency. How does that make you feel? Are you going to overcome that?
Number one, so there will be opposition. This era is over. So 51% of the vote will be enough for me to win. Knowing that there is opposition, of course, there are others who have different ideas about the next president.
Are you a felool? Are you a felool?
You know what felool means?
I just wanted an answer.
You know what?
This lady since a long time.
He wants to make some news. Yeah.
No, I want people say that's what people say in the street.
What people say? You must say some people say. You must be precise. Okay.
Come on. Put your question.
A veteran diplomat, Moussa routinely responded without addressing the question or saying anything concrete. Few journalists bothered to press him.
That there is a different background between them and between myself.
It sounds like you're saying they are Islamists and you are more secular. The word background is opaque to me.
Well, the choice of expressions, you can use whatever you want to use.
At other times, Moussa simply refused to respond.
How do you think history will judge the military council management of the transitional period?
There have been wrong decisions, of course, but this will be left to the not only history but the next government to ponder.
Can you develop a little bit more about the wrong decisions?
Excuse me?
Can you develop a little bit more, please, about the wrong decisions?
No, I believe that that's enough.
Okay, go ahead.
You don't want to criticize the military council?
Sorry,
Wait a moment.
It's my turn.
Not anyone can ask us like that.
German radio.
TRN also asked about U.S. military aid to Egypt and keeping the Egyptian military as an integral part of the system. U.S. military aid to Egypt, they provide I believe it's $1.3 billion specifically in military aid. Would you want this aid to continue? And also, do you believe that heads of the military council should be investigated and prosecuted for a number of violent acts that took place in Tahrir?
I don't see any reason to refuse a certain aid program. This also has to do with the relations between Egypt and America, which I intend to promote and to have a good, solid, positive relationship between Egypt and the United States. I am a firm believer in that Egypt must have the best of relations with the United States.
Oh, and also, I'm sorry, the military council. There's a second question to that. It was about the military council prosecuting heads of states.
All those issues will come later. No, I do not think that this is the time to discuss all that.
The next day, the headlines were as dull as was the press conference. The Associated Press announced that Moussa believes his experience as a former government official is an asset. Reuters repeated Moussa's claim that the next president would need, quote, lobbying skills.
Thank you, Chairman.
Just the beginning of a long sequence.
Thank you.
And AFP led with Moussa's boast that he had better credentials than his competitors. Jahan Hafiz and Reed Lindsay for The Real News in Cairo, Egypt.